Okay, looks like we're up. I'm just waiting for notification, which is always fun. Or maybe if we hit refresh. There we are. Now I can see where I'm standing. Okay, yeah, once it loads. This way I get to find out if everything is running properly. So we are at that. Click that. Don't mind me, my other screen is beside me here. That's why I'm looking sideways at you. Let's see here. There we go. Now we're loading. Oops, I think we loaded twice now. Nope. Oh, okay. Good morning, Terry. First through the gate. Actually, I think it's afternoon in this case. Good morning, Terry. Whoop. Okay, we know that's working. Okay, now I just got to shut the feed off. There. Yeah, I figured I'd take somebody's suggestion and come on in the afternoon. So, it's sort of a trial issue, but I figured, what the heck? It boils down to, I sat down today. I was down having lunch, and like usual, I took my notebook with me to write, and got the first 3 baseline chapters of another book done. Just basically the notes for it. Thank you so much, YJ. Glad you could join us. Yeah, to me, it's still a little strange. I mean, the issue that, let's see, how do I put that? The issue that people are actually looking forward to it. As it turns out, I really pushed people away from me, even starting as a young kid. So this idea of people having, people having to wait to talk to me is it's a very bizarre feeling. Not a bad one, just very bizarre. So yeah, it really boils down to an issue of trying to get things moving in the right direction. So on top of the books that I've been working on, and I can't show you, I've got it set up over on the far side here. Still don't have a camera where, as a matter of fact, my camera still says it doesn't work, but this is working fine for me. I just about missed the first Friday last month. Dave phoned me in August. Phoned me at the beginning of the month, and he goes, "Are you ready for it tonight?" And I'm like, "What day are we working on?" So it does happen, but I'm glad you made it in today. And like I've told people, much as I pick a topic that I'm going to work on, myself, I still, much like on Friday nights, I still work with the idea of, if questions show up in the chat room, I will do my best to answer them, even if it's off whatever I'm talking about. Doesn't matter. I got thinking, and I was looking at writing a book on success and how to attain it, and it dawned on me that in order to attain success, you really have to understand where things have gone sour, where things are leading people astray. Okay. So I'm still working on a working title for it, but I've got another book I'm working on regarding success and how to get there. Now, why, pray tell, would you break your foot? The reality is, Terry, if you're going to take a week off, come up with a less painful way. I tore my leg apart, right? That was in school. But when I broke my hand, I broke a finger when I was still working for the golf club, and got accused of breaking my hand so I could get a day off. It's like, no, I can think of far less painful ways. Like the one that I ended up with a couple of days off work, working for my first psychic line, came down with laryngitis. I still showed up for work, but for some reason, bearing in mind I work on a phone, my boss looks at me and goes, would you, just go home for a couple of days? So I got to ask Terry, how, pray tell, did you manage to break your foot? Well, I don't have to ask, but I'm going to anyway. Well, the funny part about it from my end, YJ, this idea of defining success, I found a very easy way of doing it. Yeah, foot break would be. I know somebody else had just sprained their ankle and it's driving them right up the nut, right up the wall because they can't function properly. It's funny, Terry, you and I are actually the same age. Okay, I just find that if I'm working at a desk, I have a much less viable opportunity to break something. I mean, and in all fairness, it's way overrated. Malu, welcome to the party here. Glad you can make it. I don't know who suggested I come on in the afternoon, but clearly it's busier in the afternoon than it is at 8 o'clock in the morning, which works out well. So I got up, did a bunch of running around, got my proper lunch in, and now, managed to get back here in time for 1:30, and I'm good to go. And of course, the all-important thing, but don't need that there because it's in the way. The all-important thing is you always have your coffee. I keep that handy. Bring that where I can get it. And in this case, I've got the other backup, which is way over there. Very important, great for destroying your insides. I'll tell you, and this is a complete sidetrack, but this makes for an absolutely fantastic toilet bowl cleaner. I drink the stuff, but I mean, realistically, I keep that around to clean the bathroom with because it works like a charm, right? I keep a spritzer bottle of water and vinegar because it works. It's got a double purpose as well. Obviously, if this works well as a toilet bowl cleaner and it's drinkable, okay, dual purpose. Now, I keep a spritzer bottle of water and vinegar around because it's fantastic for cleaning windows, and I can use it on my French fries at home. Again, dual purpose. The more you can find that meshes together. In answer to your question there, Terry, I'm a little older than you. May 13th. May 13th of 63. So it puts me a day or two ahead. Puts me a couple of months ahead. But, what the heck? Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. The way I figure it, we've got a choice. Now, vinegar is edible, i.e. biodegradable. Also works great, by the way, if you're trying to make pickled eggs. Water and vinegar, again, you just leave it sit for a while, it'll dissolve the eggshell. Boil them first, then dissolve it. Now you've got pickled eggs. It's great. Assuming you like pickled eggs. See, the funny thing about success that I found, YJ, the one thing that, oh, okay, you're a little older than I am. My apologies. You're about to hit there. Yeah, the thing I found about success, in all fairness, YJ, is that success to me is when you are content, when things are running smoothly to what you see as success. That may be running a household, making it work properly. Okay. Making it work properly so that you have all the things that you're not content with moved out of your life. Okay, or have the energy redirected. Oh. The neat part about it, like I've got YJ, I've got a friend of mine upstairs, actually the guy that built these, lives upstairs from me. That's the dice from the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay. The guy that works out that lives upstairs from me is the guy that built these. He's also the guy that is building the staff of Jeremiah's. Okay. And I'm really happy to say I got an inquiry off my website this morning regarding the books regarding a purchase of my books off the website, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay. Now, I will tell you, and I've got to talk to him about it to see if it can be done. Well, I know he can do it, but he's got a lot of things in the go right now, so it's got to wait. I'm going to see what I can get him to do about building an actual set of dice themselves. But no, I took a look at it. Good afternoon, Angels of Life. Glad you could make it. I'm quite happy. Whoever came up with the idea, and I'll probably mention this a couple of times, the idea of coming on in the afternoon, it's easier for me to talk live if there's people in there to talk to. I spend a lot of my time talking to myself in the first place. But where is of course, I'm not going to be able to see it. There it is. Half a second, because I can't give you information if I don't have it. This is what's called my working section. Okay. Now, what I'm looking at, the newest book I just started putting together, and let's face it, I've already got 14. This is the 15th book I'm working on simultaneously. Okay. But I figured I'll take a look at it. And for me, if a tool is going to work, it's got to be universal. Now, the tools I'm putting in this particular book apply to any civilization, any group of people. It doesn't matter. Okay, doesn't matter who you vote for, how much money you've got, who you crawl into bed with, who you believe the creator is. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's all inclusive. And the thing is, for me, it's very important if I'm going to offer a tool that anybody can put it to use. Okay, because what I have discovered is a civilization across the cosmos is essentially the same. Yes, people have different physical configurations, they have different diets, but the principles behind them still apply. Okay, and this is the thing we have to look at. Now, of course, I started, and I talked about this a while back, about the 4 P's of success: a purpose, a plan, patience, persistence, and patience. Well, there's 4 other aspects that have to come into play, and therefore I'm adding them to the front of this book. Okay, and that's the PrEP principle. Okay, parenting. Okay, you've got parenting, religion, education, and politics. All of these have some critical hiccups in them that people have to start taking a look at if we're going to find common ground to make sure this civilization doesn't just up and collapse. We're going to have to start working together. Okay, now I know I'm going to upset a few people, but here's the funny thing. Okay, I'm getting this information together in a book because what I found is trying to talk about any one of these topics. I put them onto a video like this, and whatever medium we're working with, they have the right, and I don't begrudge them the right. They've got the right to say this is not acceptable in our venue. Okay, that's fine. So I'm putting it into smaller forms so that if people desire them, they can get them directly from me. And the only time I have to worry about it being censored, or told you can't say that, is after it's already been said. And this is the whole kicker to it. When we take a look at any one of you, if you desire to get ahead in this world, first and foremost, you got to figure out whether or not you understand what getting ahead is. Oh, well, that's terrible. I'm going to have to darken that. See, the white sheet on the up here. Can't point at it right, but you see it there. Where is it? Yeah, I'm trying to do this backwards. You can picture how backing up works for me. Okay, that one right there. Okay, that actually has my nice little sign on it that says, I am worth it. But apparently that doesn't work that well. So I'm going to have to put it on a different sheet and make it much bolder so I can read it while I'm sitting here. Very important in my eyes. It's an absolute fundamental thing. Now, just some of the notes I was making. Okay, regarding this new book coming out that I'm working on. Now, before I get into it, I am right now, where are we here? See where we're standing, because, the idea of success is real simple. You've got to figure out what it means to you. So, where am I? Looking for my mouse, like for my cursor, so I can find it as I can get things up. And where are we? Well, there it is. It's not working as fast as I would like, but what the heck? Okay. Now, bear in mind, with the Return to Paradise, which is the third book coming out, okay, I'm aiming for 400 pages. Okay, right now I've got 237 that are entered, but in this little book here, this little one here, which is the one I'm writing, I'm doing the hard copy. I'm still frankly very much a dinosaur. So if you take a look at this one, okay, I've got all of that moved. Yeah, where is it? Just looking to just hold up and show you what I'm dealing with. As soon as I get to the right page, I've got that much paper already hard copy written. About another 25, 30 copies, or 30 pages rather. Meaning I'm looking at, got 237 there, so almost 270 pages when I get this thing, when I get the hard copy alone transferred over. Okay, but the kicker to it is this. You have to know what you consider success. Okay, now, if we take a look at mankind and we go way back, people ask me quite regularly when we're talking about, it is, absolutely. And the neat part about this particular book, I found in the lobby somebody had thrown it out, completely empty. So I picked it up and went, I can work with it. It's completely empty until I got a hold of it. Very nice layout. This one was to replace, this is the other one I was using. Where are we? Looking to see if I can actually see it. Which apparently is not going to happen right now. And I'm just not going to spend a lot of time looking for it. Because I find that kind of annoying anyway. Nope. Not readily visible, therefore it can sit wherever it currently is. As you can tell, I don't exactly sit still either, especially if I'm in the middle of working on something. But I've got almost 270 pages written in hard copy. By the time I finish expanding it, I'm likely going to be very close to the end of the actual writing. I'm still on track to get actually the third book out by the end of the year. But yesterday, before I went on to Spaced Out Radio, I was actually working on the second edition, on the second printing of the Races of the Worlds. And again, if you've already got a copy, make sure I've got your address. I should still have it, but make certain I've got it. Because the second printing, when I get it done, it's coming out with added information and the pictures. Okay. And the people that already have the book are going to end up with that copy being sent free of charge. I'm not charging anybody anything extra for it. Okay. Hope that doesn't bother anybody. Okay. Where am I? Of course, I lost my page, so I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Bring that back up. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, I wrote the Yldrbac Chronicles. I actually wrote the original story, and if you've already got a copy of either The Birth of the Wolf Pack or the End of an Epoch, if you look in the back appendix, you'll see the overview of the entire original story. Okay, just about original. I removed the actual numbers I've written down and turned it into a little bit more of an ambiguous time frame in the poem. But the story itself will tell you what is actually coming before the birth of the wolf pack. And of course, I'm already almost halfway through writing Where It All Began, which is actually the first book of the entire thing. And it starts with the idea of where reality began. Okay. And again, coming back to this idea where success is the issue, you've got to decide what you feel is success. For me, the idea of getting the Yldrbac Chronicles out, that is a marker for me to have success. Okay. And yes, in case you're wondering what that background noise is, I can't do much about it. Okay. But this little thing here is stopping me from overheating. That was an interesting noise. Okay. That's just a little fan. It's because the temperature here, much as it's really not that high, for me, it's overheating. So I keep that to avoid the problem with vertigo and what have you. Now I talk to way too many people that turn around and go, I was trying to write a book, but, I got told that it wouldn't sell. Newsflash, there are roughly 7.9 billion people on the planet. Somebody is going to pick up that book. It may just be that one book that you require that really gets you thinking. Okay, I can't tell you how many people I have turned around and sold this particular copy to. Okay, this particular book. Okay, that have written me back and said, yeah, it's very simple, but it made the rest of them make sense. And I'm doing my best to write books where it comes to the self-help ones. I'm doing my best to write them so that they are easy to understand, easy to implement. Okay. When it comes to the children's books, I want the children to be caught to really catch the attention. The funny thing is, when I take a look at these ones, okay, this is why I said I've got them all in inventory. Okay, this particular one, Mr. Dreamcatcher. Okay, when my eldest son was 2 years old, I got tired of reading your standard Dr. Seuss, the Berenstain Bears. So I rattled off this story off the top of my head. Okay, and even had him help with designing what the characters looked like. Okay, now he was only 2 years old at the time. So when we take a look at Mr. Dreamcatcher here, okay, when we take a look at this, my eldest son, I wrote this for him when he was 2, and until he was a month before he turned 8, he wouldn't go to bed until he heard that story. Now I tried getting it done through First Nations, tried to get them to take a look at it, and they went, it's the best one we've seen, but you're not First Nations, so we won't handle it. I'm like, okay, people, you're still all humans. It's that simple. Yes, there are hybrids out there. There are people that are a little different. Okay, absolutely there are. But if you're striving to get a piece of information or you're striving to get a different story out, okay, the reason I wrote this, like I said, The reason I wrote this was because my son, I got tired of reading the same story, so I made one up. Turned out it worked out really well. And then, so of course, that's the first one. And then, like usual, I ended up writing a sequel to it, Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns. And in this one, I ended up, this one I actually had the help of my youngest son. Okay. So what I'm looking at now, I will get if I can't find the third copy that I actually wrote, I'll have to rewrite it. I know what the storyline was. But when we look at success, and it doesn't matter what race you are, what nationality you are, doesn't matter who you vote for, these tools that I'm looking at have to apply to everybody equally. Okay, if they don't, we've got a pretty serious problem. And if you want to know how serious, take a look at ancient Rome. Okay, they did it backwards, it fell apart. Take a look at the Draconian Empire. They pushed too fast, they grew too quick, they fell apart. Okay, and this is why I say these tools apply to everybody. They apply to every one of you. Okay, and that is ultimately my goal from the writing standpoint. But somebody asked me the other day what I was aiming at in the long run. Okay, for me, it's never been about the money. It's never been about popularity. Okay, which is a good thing because let's face it, my social etiquette is a little slim, a little sketchy. I like, and this shirt from my youngest son for Christmas, for Father's Day this year, pretty much says it all. My people skills are just fine. It's my tolerance to idiots that requires work. Okay. An idiot to me is very simple. It doesn't have anything to do with the intelligence level. It has to do with the way that they're operating. And if you're doing something that is just patently, absolutely stupid, okay, one of the things I've always looked at is it's never a question to me, am I going to put my foot in my mouth? It's a question of how am I going to get the other one in there with it? So when we take a look at civilization, the off-worlders have better toys. Absolutely no question. Okay. They've got better technology. They've got better toys. I was asked one day, what my goal is in life. I says, frankly, I'm already meeting my goal. I really desire to make everybody I run into happy. Some people I make happy by showing up. Most of them I make happy by leaving. But they're still happy. Now, that doesn't always work well for me. But when I talk about treating everybody the same, as I told people on Spaced Out Radio last night, I had a run-in with the Srizazian High Council. And the one thing you don't want to tell Srizazians is that they are cowards. They don't like that very much. But it was what came out of my mouth when they turned me down on actually going and helping their own people. Now, I'm going to show you something here. This one here. I've talked about Srizazians a lot. And I do have my artist down in Texas. I do have my artist down in Texas working for them. But if you take a look at this book, okay, there's a normal human. Okay, 5'8". This is normal. This here, okay, that is a Srizazian. So you can see the difference. Now, this is what you're looking at when you're talking about, dealing with people equally. Okay, and what I've really striven to do is with the Yldrbacian Chronicles. I'm including many of the races you deal with there are included in Races of the Worlds Volume 1 and 2. So it kind of worked out the Races of the Worlds is kind of an attachment to the Yldrbacian Chronicles as well. Because Races of the Worlds is a reference manual. It's got data, pictures, that sort of thing. But the interaction, the social interaction, is covered more effectively in the Chronicles. Now, the thing is, when I talk about success, and whether we're talking about running your house or your home successfully, running a small business, the answer is absolutely it is possible. Okay. Good morning, Travis. Pardon me if you came in earlier, but it is absolutely possible. Okay. Mankind can get along. 40,000 years ago, mankind had a unified world. Okay, we had a world where there was no fear, there was no jealousy, there was absolutely envy, but I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, there was no greed; it was just gone. Okay, and we were in solid communication. Okay, 40,000 years ago, the Lemurian Empire, which had unified itself completely around the globe, just over 10 billion people strong. So we are not anywhere near overloading. Okay, we are not running out of space. But people have to get past the idea of greed. They've got to get past the idea of jealousy. And they really have to get past this idea of, I can sit on my tail feathers and the world will change for me. Isn't going to happen. No higher entity, no God, no source, none of that is coming down to straighten this out. They are not going to come down and collect up a whole pile of people and go, oh, you're special. Okay, so we're going to lift you out of the way and then we're going to burn the place. Not going to happen. Okay, the off-worlders are not going to come in and sort out the problem. This is up to you. This is up to me. This is up to all of us working together. But can we get along? The answer is yes. The trick is to start looking and focusing on the similarities and the things we have in common. Here's a couple that are real simple. Every one of you is going to die. It is not going to matter how much you pray, who you pay off. It's not going to help. You're going to die. And as the Egyptians found out 5,000 years back, you're not taking your material stuff with you. Okay, you got to realize this. You're also going to find out that if you're hungry, regardless of who you believe in, regardless of who you crawl into bed with, if you're hungry, you're going to eat. If you're thirsty, you're going to drink. These are similarities. Okay, these are the things that people have in common, not only with other humans. Okay, but they also have this in common. People desire to be respected. They desire to be heard. Okay, I heard one kid say on the national newsline just a little while ago. I only caught a bit of it because it was forwarded to me through Twitter, I think. Okay, but this one kid says all the mass shootings going on in the States, it's not about killing people. It's not about being angry at the people. It's a case of not being listened to. The kids are bored. The kids are not getting any guidance. And the educational system is such that it is throwing them out into the real world where they find out what they're being taught is completely off track. Okay. And this is one of the many things I'm dealing with in this newest book I'm working on. Okay. Now, you should talk to the watchers. That's literally what they do. YJ, if your goal is... Uh-oh. I am going to have to let him... I'll give him a call back. Because I'm not coming off air. So I will give him a call back later. That's just making sure the school bus is there for my son. So, this is what I mean by putting your priorities in order. That's very important. It'll stop ringing in a minute without me hanging up on him. But it'll go to the answering machine and I'll solve that. Sorry about that distraction. Welcome to my world. Okay, when you're looking at the whole reality behind successfully interacting and making peace with people, understand skin color does not make any difference. Okay, if we start with the obvious, okay, if you are teaching, and somebody actually pointed out something really neat. We're not raising kids, we're raising adults. And it's the adults that are going to have to be raised to realize that knocking down monuments, destroying artwork from centuries back, doesn't make the event go away. All it does is destroy artwork that somebody put a lot of work into. Okay, people have to be taught to respect other property. You don't have to agree with everything that's being made. Okay, and if you dig around enough, you'll find skeletons in everybody's closet. I've got some in mine. Okay, and from my end, I just don't talk to people about the really bad things that I've gone through. I've made some pretty stupid decisions. Okay, and acted on some pretty insane ideas. But we have to realize, as parents, okay, now bear in mind, a parent does not mean the person that either gave birth or fathered a child. It is the one that is raising the child. Okay, the one that is guiding the child or the other adults. If you are concentrating on punishing bad behavior, try this on for a slightly different outlook. Okay, instead of punishing bad behavior, start rewarding good behavior. Okay, you will get far better results. Okay, and don't just take my word for it. For pity's sake, don't just take my word for it. Try it out yourself. If you haven't done it, okay, if you haven't gone that road, do your best to do so. You minimize the negative, you maximize the positive. Okay. I agree with you, Travis. The sad part, Travis, what he's asked is, how long do you think this realization is going to take? I look around now and it seems almost impossible. And ultimately, I absolutely agree. 1,700 years ago, okay, actually, I think about 1,800 years ago, I was a young senator in Rome. And I told the people then, I spent 60 years of my life in the Senate. Okay, sitting there trying to tell the people in charge, you keep treating the commoners like garbage, you're going to have a revolt. They didn't believe me at all. Okay, net result, the Roman Empire collapsed. They kept treating people like garbage. They kept treating the people in the upper echelons, the people that had money, like gold. And they said, hey, you got money, that makes you special. Okay, not impressed. I warned them about it. They didn't believe me. Okay, unfortunately, mankind is going down exactly the same road. Okay, the money you've got doesn't matter. You're not taking it with you anyway. And I will tell you, especially in today's world, okay, you can be you can have all the money in the world. A bullet's still going to take you out. Okay, it's just that simple. Okay, and rest assured, it doesn't matter who you're sleeping with. Dead is still dead. You don't have to agree with the person's way of life. Okay, as long as it is mutually consensual. Okay, and this is what I was referring to about do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. You don't have to agree with them. You just have to realize that as long as it is consensual. And by the way, we are having broadcast problems apparently. Okay, by the way, and this is extremely important. Okay, and it does apply to both men and women, contrary to popular belief. Good morning, Chad Smith. Glad you can make it and that you can make it. Yeah, that came out well. Something that people have to realize, especially when we are talking about intimate relationships, whether it's the guy or the girl, doesn't matter. The reality is it's simply broadcast more often than the woman is one that gets into trouble. Okay, but no means no. It's just that simple. It doesn't mean a little more coercion and I'll give in. It means stop, regardless of where you're standing, regardless of how far in you've gotten to things. Okay, it means stop. No means no. Just that simple. Okay. And when people realize that, we won't have this neat little problem of assault and what have you going on. But in answer to your question, I'm thinking you're looking at assuming that we can get any traction this time around, and there's a lot going against it. Okay, and this is where I start picking a fight with somebody's going to get upset with me, and this is why I'm not going into it in detail here. But I am putting this directly into the next book, into this one book I'm writing. If you believe that your creator created everything, you must accept the fact that your creator also created evil. Because if your creator did not create evil, then your creator did not create everything. It's a black and white. It's the same as no means no, yes means yes. Okay, no does not mean maybe. Okay, or doesn't mean convince me. It means no. That's where the discussion ends. Everything after that is irrelevant. Okay, there comes a point, and this is something that the off-worlders have run into, and it took me a long time to get it through to these people, but it did eventually happen. Now, bear in mind, chronologically, I'm only 59, but when I look at the spiritual side of things, my past lives, okay, and I'm not going to give you the full number at this point, but if you think of the Big Bang Theory, okay, if you go back to that, let's keep it real simple. I remember Earth itself being constructed. Okay. I remember the excitement that happened when Earth itself was put together, when the moon was put in place. Now understand, the moon was not put in place by civilization. It was put in place to provide a balancing aspect for Earth itself. Okay, but we're talking about before mankind came along. So ultimately, have I been around? Have I seen a fair chunk? Absolutely, but I'm not here to convince anybody of it. Okay, the reality is I don't have the capacity to convince people. Okay, all I can do is say this is what it is. What you look at is you look for consistency whenever you're talking to somebody else. Because I see this happen a lot, not only in civilization, but I see it happen in the other worlds as well. Okay, you take a look at the UFO community, and I watch people come out and go, "Oh, I think I've been abducted." And then you'll have members of the community that go, "No, that's not possible. You're just making that up to get your attention and to get people's attention." Oh, this would be Folgers. Primarily, that's what I drink. And the real reason for that is I pick it up at like $8 a kilo. But I always make sure I've got at least a kilo in backup. Right now, I happen a kilo, by the way, is 2.2 pounds. Okay, so I keep at least 4 pounds in backup. Right now, I think I've got something close to 8. So I'm not in danger of running out of coffee anytime soon. The funny thing about it, when I take a look at the way the world was built, now I cannot prove it. I let other people do the proving thing. Nope. Very tempted given the amount of coffee I've got when I do get around to dying. Just put in my will, take one of my cans of coffee and bury it with me so I got it when it gets over there. And then somebody several decades down the road, they ever dig up my my body, if they ever dig up my coffin, they can have coffee then too. I saw a construction thing that was just priceless. This construction worker who's building a house, and he shows a picture of this little cubby hole he was building. It was fit into the wall. And what he did was he took a replica skeleton, not a real one. He took a replica skeleton, really well made, dressed it in workman's clothing, dirty workman's clothing. Set it in the corner, set it in this little cubby hole, and sealed it in the wall. And the comment he made was, 50 years down the road when they demolish my house, somebody's going to find this skeleton and be really caught off guard. Now that, he has no idea who's going to find it. And I'm thinking, that's just mean. In a twisted way, it's kind of funny in my eyes, but he's not doing anything, he's setting up a practical joke in a lot of ways. The idea that you can set things in place, to give somebody else a start. I mean, it would certainly be a start. It wouldn't take long for them to go, oh no, this is plastic, or this is a rosin mold, and realize it's not a real skeleton. But when they first see it, another issue altogether. Hopefully, the person that finds it does not have a weak heart. Okay, but that's just one of these twisted things that's going on. Now, I take a look at civilization. All civilizations started the same way. Okay, it all starts, it's not a question of, oh, look, we've got a fully developed civilization, let's transplant it. Unless you deal with somebody like the Mobians. They started off here on Earth as humans. They evolved to the point where they had physical manifestation down to a fine art. And they wiped out greed, they wiped out fear, they wiped out famine. It was all gone. And then they turned around and said, okay, this world is starting to tank. The majority of the civilization is running into troubles. So before it does, let's bail. And they colonized Mobius. Okay, now we're talking 40,000 years ago. They landed on a planet on the other side of the sun. Okay, and now that's where they are. So they did take their civilization from here and went to there. Okay, the nice part about it. Yes, Spooky, you absolutely did. Welcome aboard there, Spooky. What we were talking about, it started off with me being asked what coffee I'm drinking today, which, in answer to the question, was Folgers. And then it went a little sideways, and I suggested that when I go to set my will up and get ready to pass away, at that point, I'm thinking, put in my will, take one of my spare cans of coffee. They're completely vacuum sealed. Okay, bury it in the coffin with me. That way, when somebody does get around to getting into my coffin, which I have no doubt somebody somewhere along the line is going to, just do me a favor. If you do that, don't go raising me. I've already had that happen and just not that interested in it again. But I figure that way they can open it up. There's a vacuum sealed pack of coffee that, and they can have a real pack of coffee from back when we had it here. My gift to the future, if you will. But civilization starts off in a very violent form. Now, I was asked last night on Spaced Out, I was asked how it can be seen as just being normal for the reptilians on the whole to just have somebody drop dead beside them, even if it's a relative, and go, okay, he's dead. Well, thanks very much, Pop. Dinner served, and toss them onto the table, and there you go. The reason they do that, the reason that they end up doing that is because once the soul leaves, all you're dealing with is meat. And for a carnivore, extremely necessary. Okay, the whole trick to it is realizing that as long as you're treating it properly, as in treating it in a way that you desire to be treated yourself, okay, they will not eat people, their family members, if they die of disease or if they die because of poison, they do not get thrown on the dinner table. They get thrown into the fusion reactor and turned into part of their power source. Okay, now something I've got sitting in my notes here somewhere, not the technical specs on it, but the pattern and the design for a power system that runs on solar, wind, and wind, hydro, and geothermic energy all at once. Okay, I've got the design already laid out. I've got it sketched out. What I don't have is the technical information on how to build it. Not my department. I get a kick out of it. When I was 20 months old, they diagnosed me as mentally retarded. And then when I got to be 13 years old, they threw me into a course in theoretical genetics. Go figure that one out. But when you look at the unified worlds, people keep going, when are we going to be permitted to become a member of the Galactic Consortium? Well, the reality is this. Until mankind gets past this idea that a different color makes you a different or lesser race, different they can work with, but lesser is a problem. Mankind, as in humans, have got to get to the point where the major majority of them are looking at each other going, okay, you got 2 arms, got 2 legs, your organs are all the same, you're human. That makes you equally valuable. When mankind gets to that point and develops a one world government, now do understand, a one world government does not mean a dictatorship. It does not mean somebody saying, I'm the most important person on the planet and I get to tell you what everybody gets to do, and you'll pay homage to me. This is not the way this works. A one world government means you've got a whole pile of people, much like the UN, okay, preferably with less fighting. Because the reality is this. Somebody living in an Arctic region is not going to know how to cope with the problems that arise in a desert area. People living in a rural community are not going to understand the complications of living in a city, and vice versa in both cases. Okay, so this is where politics has to get straightened around. This is not a question of overthrowing any government. Understand the system that has been built is effective. The people that are in it, that are being put into these positions of power, tend to be too stuck in their own ways and too caught up with the idea of, oh, I'm in a position of power, that makes me better than you. No, it doesn't. It makes you different. It certainly may give you access to more money, but the reality of it is the money is irrelevant. The money has to be a side effect, not a goal. Okay. Just to put, I'm watching what's going on in the chat room here, and the whole catch, just to be clear, as far as other podcasts go, I have a regular schedule of work. I do have a normal job that I work from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, which means those hours are just completely off the market. Cannot go there. Daytime I got no problem with. And other than that, my Saturday afternoon is actually my Saturday day. Well, aside from the fact I'm here. And, if I end up on another podcast, then obviously I won't be here. Right? But my weekends, things can get a little, like Sunday night would work really well from my end, because my relaxation time, which is where I play Dungeons and Dragons, and like it or not, that helps me relax. People don't necessarily understand this. I had a girlfriend a while back that put it really neat. She looks at it and goes, you don't use Dungeons and Dragons as a distraction. She goes, you're using it to build your world. Okay. And when it comes to building, one thing I have found in every civilization I've run into, they all have similar problems. Okay, we've got all these different levels of society, all these different ideas of what has to be done, which is great. As my father put it, if everybody was exactly the same, then we wouldn't. If everybody was exactly the same, then we'd have a problem. We'd all be bored. Okay. But people are being taught across the cosmos are being taught this, not just humans. Fear everything available. You're taught to fear life. You're taught to fear death. You're taught to fear change. You're taught to fear not having enough money, not having enough food. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a firm believer that food is a really good thing. Okay, I like my food. I just don't like cooking it. So I go to the restaurant. It costs me way too much money, but hey, you pay for what you're dealing with. The reality is, I don't go to the bar and spend a whole pile on alcohol. I don't spend money on drugs. Okay. The neat little thing with coffee, with coffee as compared to that, I've actually got a nutritionist telling me, drink all the coffee you desire because I don't drink a strong coffee. Basically, I put enough coffee in to take the flavor of chlorine out. And yes, if I had access to a mountain stream or to a glacier, I'd absolutely use that water first. But I don't have access to that. Amazingly enough, I live in an apartment, so we don't have a lot of glaciers around here. Okay, at least not inside the city. So, sorry, I'm not getting glacier water. But all of, every civilization that I've come across, okay, have the same thing going for them, especially the ones that are members of the consortium. They have a unified world. They understand that it takes people from every walk of life. Now, here in Kelowna, we've got a cute problem. We got a lot of millionaires being moved into the area. And what I got told is the term is gentrification. Let's move all these millionaires in that want all this high society stuff, all these high price shops, all these restaurants. But they refuse to put housing in to handle the working poor, the people that have to work in the restaurants and still live. Okay, so, if you're looking at that and you're pushing for all this higher stuff, think about it. We have to have accommodation for the lower income people. You just have to. And here's a neat little idea on how to eliminate, not lessen, but eliminate this constant inflation thing. Stop raising prices. And I don't mean just if you run a restaurant, don't raise your prices. I'm referring to all the way back to the beginning of it. Okay. As in the manufacturers, the people that are putting the stuff together. If you stop raising prices, inflation will stop. Inflation is caused by, as near as I can piece it together, it is simply caused by greed. And, for me, am I working on something bigger than writing? Way, way, way bigger. Now, understand, I require right now $3,200 a month to actually run my house. Now, and I wonder if I actually wrote it down. So let's just double check. One of the advantages of having multiple different screens at the same time. Don't know if I wrote it. Where the heck is it? Yeah, that would figure. I love my computer. It just does not cooperate very well. There. Okay, now, what do we got here? Coming in off of that end, we've got... That's August. Oh, okay, that's May. Well, why don't I have anything marked there? Oh, because I'm not looking at the right thing. There we go. So now I need 32 to run the house, as it turns out. Okay. 17, 25, 30. I made barely over 3,200. Okay. And I targeted 38, but I had a very major drop in certain areas. So I just left it there. But am I making ends meet? Yes. But the trick is I don't look at the money side of it. But bearing in mind, that was all I made last month. I am in the process of setting things in motion to build a network so that I can actually build a complete recovery center. a place where people can actually, regardless of their age, regardless of their income, can come and get help. Whether it means medical help, naturopathic, spiritual, education, whatever the healing they require. Okay, how do you let go of a past relationship? How do you let go of the fact that all of a sudden you find yourself an orphan? Okay, all of these things are necessary. Inside that same complex, I do intend on having different shops, as in restaurants, auto shops, this sort of thing, a whole school setup. Now, does this sound like a massive project? You bet it does. And the funny part about it is I figured out how to do it where, I can actually make everybody generate an income. And when I mean everybody, where are we here? Not that one. I want this one here. Football Cat, welcome aboard. I figured out a way where patrons, shop owners, shareholders, people that are just simply passing word, as in word of mouth advertising, myself included, like everybody across the board, will be able to generate an income when this thing gets put together. I've already got it laid out. Now I'm starting to reach out for the network. Obviously, the building I'm looking at building is going to take a lot more money than I've got right now. But understand, for me to call it successful, it will not be a corporation. Not the way the corporations are set up right now. Okay, because my understanding with a corporation, I've seen this, humans talk about a hostile takeover. Okay, now here's the difference. Humans go, we're having a hostile takeover of this company. Okay, but, and that's one way of doing it. Off-worlders go, we're taking over this company in a hostile fashion. They don't leave one employee alive. Okay, when we're talking hostile by alien terminology, we're talking about terminate, not fire. Okay, I know of one group of people that when they evict somebody from a building, they evict them from whatever floor they're on. And that doesn't mean they chase them down the stairs or use the elevator. It's like, okay, you're on the 14th floor, you're sitting on the balcony, you're on the 14th floor, you got a balcony. You're evicted, so you're going off the balcony. Now, needless to say, this cuts down on lawsuits. But you got to remember, that's their culture. In today's society, not a good thing. Okay, what we have to realize is that mankind does have the potential of getting along. Okay, I mean, I saw something appalling one day. People talk about minorities. Well, let's eliminate one little question. Okay, on a global standpoint, white people are the minority. This does not mean they're better. It doesn't mean they should get better treatment. And yeah, in case you couldn't tell, I'm white. Okay, it doesn't mean they're any better at all. But it does mean they're a minority. Okay, galactically speaking, humans are a tiny, tiny, tiny minority. Okay, now this does not mean that they're of any less value. It does not mean that they should be looked down upon. The only time you should ever look down on anybody or on anybody's goal at becoming successful is if you happen to be standing above them or you happen to be taller than them. Other than that, there is no functional reason to look down on somebody and go, oh, you're not good enough. Okay. And the thing is, this applies across the board. How can we turn this around? Well, I'm not doing it on my own, that's for certain. Which is why I tell people, if you like my video, absolutely do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel. There's even that funny little button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen that enables you to do that more easily. Okay. And the thing is, every one of the tools that I offer, every tool I talk about, is a tool I personally use. It's not a question of do what I tell you, and I'll do that, I'll do something else. What I'm saying is, this is what I've used that is proven to work. Okay. If you haven't tried it and if you haven't experienced it and you're still seeking a way, then absolutely give it a shot. See what happens. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work. Okay. And you're still in the same boat. But the reality of it is, I look at it and go, I've used these methods, and the ones I haven't used, I've turned over to enough people. I mean, I've been working in the consulting field now, for 59 years if I only count this lifetime. Okay, so I've been doing this for a while. Does this mean that I should be looked at and go, "Oh, you're special"? Absolutely not. If I were perfect, certainly, maybe. Okay, but the reality is I'm not. I did come back to this world, to this time frame, for the sole purpose of reminding people, for the primary purpose of reminding everyone in existence that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. But your success is up to you. You're the one that's going to have to put the effort into it. Okay. I mean, the reality is, when you're looking at the way your world is going, it is absolutely imperative. If you desire the world to change, if you're not happy with what you're seeing, quit discussing the idea of overthrowing the government. You desire to overthrow a government? Here's a novel thought. Get into politics and do it from inside. Because the system itself is designed correctly. Okay. It is not designed that if you don't like it, change part of it, which is where they went really sideways with religion. Okay, we'll take a look at this book that was inspired by events, and we're going to pull parts out of it because, we don't like them. Okay, and this is coming from the people that are really promoting the whole idea of multiple different religions. Okay, you cannot look at the world and go, I don't like this, so we're going to change it and call it something else. Okay, in marketing, they call it the same garbage in a brand new box. Okay. So, I mean, from that end, and obviously I've got my flaws. Okay, I am absolutely not perfect. Ask anybody. I have a very, very bad vocal temper when I'm dealing with what I consider stupid people. Okay, as in people doing things they know absolutely full well it's not going to work well. One of these neat ideas, if you're running, like if you happen to own a restaurant, came across a chap, he owned his own restaurant, and he came up with a real neat way to motivate his waiters and waitresses. He had a good menu, right? Not extremely expensive. It had 8 or 10 items on it, but what he did was he said, okay, the first one of you to sell one of every entree gets a $50 cash bonus tonight. And they pinned the $50 up on the board. Okay. His sales in the restaurant went through the roof. Okay. Because the staff started working for that extra bonus. Now understand, the moment you start tying your tips, and this applies directly to the hospitality industry, the second you start going on your bill, I'm adding 15% tip. What you're saying is, I'm not going to pay my staff properly. You're going to pay my staff. This is a good way to cause a problem for yourself. Okay, you've got to look at the cost. And because we work most of the time when you're working hospitality, you're working preferably a 40-hour work week. According to EI up here in Canada, employment insurance, you've got to be working 40 hours a week. You've got to be working full time, which they call 32 hours. Okay, in order to qualify for employment insurance. Even if you're not working 32 hours a week, you still have to pay the insurance. Now, this, however they want to run it. But if you're looking at keeping an employee, work out the price it's going to cost to run a standard house in your area. Make sure you're paying your staff based on only 30 hours a week enough money per hour to be able to afford to live in your area. If you're not, you're going to have trouble hanging on to your staff. That's just the reality behind it. Okay, there was a taxi driver in New York that I found out about. Okay, he ran normal rates, but he carried in his cab all the time a bundle of the local paper. Okay, and a basket of fruit. Every client he had, every customer that got into the cab, every fare, he'd look at them and go, grab a newspaper and a piece of fruit. Okay. He did this for every fare. It didn't matter who it was, if they were poor, if they were multimillionaire, everybody got one. The man made triple the tips of anybody else in the city. Okay. If you're looking at the military, now the military on Earth, military really has things backwards where it comes to war. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I have the utmost respect for anybody joining the military or joining first responders, firemen, policemen, any of that. Okay, I've got a phenomenal amount of respect for them. Okay, I question the directives coming from the upper echelon. Okay, and I've always been very vocal about that. Okay, but when you're dealing with the military, people talk about, we've got war going on, and that's what drives society. War has never, ever, ever brought peace anywhere in the known universe. Anywhere. Okay, it brings quiet. Problem with it bringing quiet is it drives everything underground, and now instead of knowing where the complications are, okay, and this applies, by the way, if you're focusing on punishing people for doing something wrong. If you're punishing them for doing something wrong, they will hide from you. They will go into hiding. They will continue doing what they will. But now you don't know where they are. Okay. The off-world military goes, we're at war. This means everybody that is in our way dies. There is no issue of you can't you can't use superior firepower. You win wars by superior firepower. You do not get peace. You get quiet. Okay, where it comes to, and this again is something that is seen across the cosmos. Okay, when we're talking about how do you get mankind to realize this, well, ask yourself this: if war actually worked, okay, at stimulating the economy, why, in the middle of a time when there are more wars going on around the world right now, why is the economy tanking? Okay, it's just a question to consider. Okay, inflation rates are up, interest rates are doing whatever they're doing. I don't pay attention to it, but I do know that there are wars going on all over the world right now. There's civil wars, there's border wars. But if war was stimulating the economy, why is the economy such a tank? Okay, if conflict, if degrading people, if punishing people for making a mistake is working, why are the prisons so full? Okay, why is that the case? These are the questions that have to start being asked, not just by myself, but they've got to be asked by you as well. Okay, and this is the message that has to be passed on if we are going to turn things around. Now, like I said, when I look at parenting, it's a question of we have to start really emphasizing what the kids are doing right, what the people you're trying, the kids, students, whatever you want to call them, parishioners, doesn't matter. Focus on what they're doing right. Okay, not what they're doing wrong. If you reward positive behavior instead of punishing negative, you'll get positive responses. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, when we take a look at the religious aspect of things, which is the next step, you start with parenting, then you go with religious philosophies. If you're teaching your followers, if you're teaching your children, your students, your parishioners, whatever, to fear everything, You got a bunch of very timid, very scared people that are afraid to do anything of their own volition. Okay, the whole concept of freedom of choice goes out the window because you got them so scared to do anything, they just they are no longer mentally capable of organizing it. Okay, when we look at the way the educational system is working, and this again, see, they've got a neat little situation. In many of the off-world societies, you get promoted into a position, especially in politics. If you get promoted into a position or elected into a position, and you're not capable of doing it, you're asked to step down. They do not see stepping out of a position that you're not capable of handling. Okay, and if you feel you're not doing a good job, you still have the same option. I can't do this job that you're trying to get me to do. I want to go back to my old job. They don't look at that as a black mark against you. They look at that as, okay, you know your limitations. So we'll pull you out of there, put you back where you're functional. Your stress level comes down, your productivity goes up, and we can get better response. Okay, and this applies across the board. Okay, whether we're talking family, corporation, military conglomerate, or political empire, it applies across the board. Okay, societies, the fact they look different. Okay, let's face it. When you're talking about the way that people are looking at each other, and you're going, how do we get society to shift gears? Well, you get it to shift gears by shifting gears yourself. Okay, by looking at people and going, yes, you look different than I do. Okay, you've got different skills. Your clothing choices may be different, which brings to mind that other neat little thing. So I want you to think about this for a second. If clothing makes the person, why is it that everybody in the military of the same rank does not behave in exactly the same fashion? Why is it that people that are all dressed, that wear uniforms like in private schools, why is it that these kids are not all behaving identical to each other? If clothing makes the person. Okay, why is it that if that is the case, the people that go to work wearing a suit and tie do not all behave the same way? It's because clothing does not make the person. It will affect the way you feel about it, about things. It will affect other people in the way they treat you. Absolutely. And I do recommend, when you're looking at going into a high society place, okay, I absolutely recommend dress according to what the place has as a dress code. Okay, but if you want to give it a shot, here's an idea. Now, let's say you're going to buy a car, and I actually knew a guy that did this. Okay, dress as though you're poor. Even if you're a multi-millionaire, walk onto the site and dress in common clothes. Do not go walk into an expensive auto shop dressed like you're wearing money. Don't do it. Dress down. And here's why. Okay, when you dress down, they think you don't have a lot of money, but they still want to make the sale. They will give you a better price, or they will treat you absolutely pathetic and you'll walk off. Okay, either way, you save money. Now, this one gentleman I knew of, he was a grease monkey. Okay, he walks onto a Cadillac lot, and the guy comes out, and of course, this chap was still in his overalls. He had washed his hands, he had washed his face, but he had come off work, and he was still in his working overalls. So he walks onto the lot, and the salesman comes out, and of course, the salesman is dressed in a suit and tie. And he comes out and goes, "What are you doing here?" And the guy looks at him and goes, "I'd like to take that Cadillac for a drive." So, of course, the salesman goes, "Not going to happen. Look at you. I am not putting you into that car." The guy goes, Sure you are. He says, yes, I'm in coveralls, but that's why you got seat covers and why you got floor mats. So if you'd be kind enough to go get me the keys, I'd like to take this car for a drive, for a test. I'm looking to buy. And the salesman argued with him back and forth. And finally, the potential purchaser opens up his wallet and goes, fine, no problem. Opens his wallet and starts leafing through $100 bills, like a thick wad of them. He goes, I'm just going to go across the street and buy. And then, of course, the salesman turns around and says, no, wait a minute, I'll go get the keys. And the potential buyer looked at him and goes, no, too late. Sale's already gone. I'm going over there. Walks across the street. Salesman over there sees him coming. Right, he sees him coming across the street and across the lot. Comes out and goes, can I help you, sir? Well, this same chap looks at him and goes, yeah, I'd like to take that Cadillac for a drive. I'm looking to buy a new one. The guy goes, just hang on half a second. I just got to get the key for you. So he runs off, gets it. The potential buyer turned around and bought the car, cash on the barrelhead. Now, if you walk onto a car lot and you're dressed in common clothing, as in a nice golf shirt, clean pants, that sort of thing, okay, you will get, in most cases, you'll get a better deal than if you walk in dressed as though you got a $15,000 outfit on you, and you're wearing another $20,000 in jewelry. Okay. Conversely, I used to travel a lot, and I found, I one day stumbled across the opportunity to show up at the hotel in a Cadillac, okay, or in a limousine rather. And I found out something. I did it because the price was a better one than the cab was. But I did find, if you're showing up, if you've got the opportunity, finances, taken into consideration, if you've got the opportunity to show up in a limousine as compared to showing up on a cab, the staff will treat you better. You'll get much better treatment. It's sad to say, it really is that way inclined. Okay. I'm a firm believer that somebody coming through the door to your workplace, somebody coming on site, okay, if they're just joining the military, and like I said, I've got a lot of respect for people that join the military. But many people joining the military haven't got a clue what they're doing. This is why they're there. Okay. But you have to go in and you've got to realize, if you desire to be successful, you're the one that's going to have to be doing the work for it. Not me. I can tell you these tools work. I can tell you I've utilized them. Okay. I cannot make it happen for you. But unless we start working together, unless we start looking at the fact that working as a unit, working with each other's strengths, okay, bolstering society itself in a nutshell is only as strong as the weakest link. Okay, now the fact there are people living on the street, we had an appalling situation here. Okay, here in Kelowna, just this past summer or past spring. Okay, somebody had laid out a situation. They'd done the work. They had it all lined up. They were going to bring in housing units. They were making them out of cargo vans, but they were wiring them, making certain they had power, making certain that they had fridges, stoves, the whole 9 yards. They were also going to bring in, and they had it all lined up, where medical people were going to come in and talk to the people that were having mental problems, and talk to them, bring in work counselors, employment counselors to help find them jobs. This was all laid out. Okay. City Hall, in their infinite wisdom, shut the whole 9 yards down because, according to them, it was not humane to put these people into cargo bins built up as single room apartments. It was more humane to leave them on the street, living behind dumpsters, living in back alleys. This is where the politicians have absolutely, completely dropped the ball. And in many cities, it's the same way. Okay. I've dealt with a lot of people on the street. I talk about being a spiritual guide. Well, the reason I call myself that is because I will talk to people exactly the same way. The same way I'm talking to you, the same way I'm talking to a 5-year-old. The difference is, if I talk to a 5-year-old and they don't understand what I'm saying, same as if I'm talking to somebody like you. Okay, if you don't understand what I'm saying, for pity's sakes, ask. I will be more than happy to lay it out, to sort it out. I've had to do this. I literally had to correct the way, or not correct, adjust the level at which I was talking quite a number of months back for somebody that had their master's in rocketry and astrophysics in order to explain how the OTE drive works. Okay, now I am not any different than you guys are. I'm not any better than any of you. I just have a different way of looking at the world. Okay, and because of that, this is why I end up dealing with a number of different races I do. Now, I was really happy this morning I started doing it. I went through some old notes I've got because, like I said, with Races of the Worlds, I've been adding new information. Okay, I've been enhancing the information that I've got in the books you've already that are already out there. And I'm working and expanding that further. I think I mentioned this earlier, but my website, rkeithandrews.com, that has all the different books. That is absolutely excellent, Terry. The reality is, if you're pleasant, if you're smiling at them, you can help them a lot more readily. Okay. I mean, the golden rule boils down to do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay. If you treat people the way you desire to be treated, okay, or conversely, don't treat people in a way that you would not be happy with, you will get a much more positive response. The other thing that also helps when dealing with retail, or when you're dealing with retail, or when you're dealing with hospitality, or people in general, if you can figure out and remember their name, use the person's name. Where it comes to communication, a person's individual name is one of the most powerful words that you can use. Okay. It's the one that will help get you the best response. Okay. Now, I mean, it can be taken by two extremes. I know of a chap that when he was younger, okay, he was into armed robbery. Not a good thing, but it's not the armed robbery that I found comical. He was involved in an armed robbery. Okay, as in he was carrying a gun, robbing a place. Goes into this place with a couple of other guys. He goes, okay, everybody down on the floor now, please. Of course, one of the other robbers looks at him and goes, please? His immediate response, Mom told me always be polite. So, I mean, the reality of it is, when we're looking at, when you look at the reality of customers, whether you call them customers, patients, clients, parishioners, they all have the same thing. Without them, you are not running a successful business. Your job will not work. As a live streamer, I don't know if I call myself a YouTuber. I mean, I'm on YouTube. I said, I'm quite happy about one little detail. As of yesterday, I finally broke the 300 mark on subscribers, which I'm quite happy about. Okay. I'm not looking at, the publicity thing, the notoriety never did catch my attention. I had Hollywood actually handed me a contract. Some company in Hollywood handed me a contract. They wanted to tell my life story. And I looked at them and I took a look at the contract, went, not going to happen. The guy goes, but you don't understand the money that you're turning down. I says, I understand perfectly the money I'm turning down. Where the problem is you have no clue how little it means to me. Okay. You know why, Jay? I've been called a lot of things, and blunt is just the polite way of putting it. Okay. This is why I tell people, the one thing I'll guarantee is I won't lie to you to make you feel better unless you directly ask me to. I actually had a client ask me that one day. Look, I don't want to know about the future. I don't want to know about the past. I don't care what's going on with my life. I don't care if you lie to me. Lie to me to make me feel better. I'm like, okay, it's your money, I'll lie to you. Bear in mind, I write in 5 different genres. Okay, I can lie. I can make up stories. The funny part about the Yldrbac Chronicles is, yes, I do market them as science fiction, science fantasy, depending on how you look at it. But I will tell you, virtually every one of the characters is based on either a character that I've actually either built myself or somebody in one of the gaming systems I've played in has built, or they're based on people that I know of in reality. Okay. And there's one specific person, okay, that I've mentioned on this show before. Okay. And that reminds me, I should draw that up, so I will. But I have patterned the character after one specific person. The one that I'm talking about, and I'm not wearing the shirt, but the shirt that I said that says Sweet Maria, I actually know her personally. And there is a character in the Yldrbac Chronicles that is literally patterned after her. Okay, with her permission, but this is something that just dawned on me. And I'm going to get it written down before, so that when I see her next Friday, I'll get her to sign off on it. It just takes all the legal side out of the equation. But, people keep saying, how do I get in touch with, how do I get an off-worlder to notice me and take me off-world? Well, to be honest, I don't honestly have a definitive answer. It's been happening to me my entire life. Okay, with way too much corroboration for me to argue the point anymore. Okay. Yeah. There's a saying, if you follow Christian beliefs, there's a saying that goes, Jesus said turn the other cheek. He absolutely did. But he did not say continue to turn the other cheek and get dizzy. Okay. He had a whole different way of looking at it. But these are parts that are not actually pointed out, that they don't tell you in the Bible. Okay. If you're going to treat somebody, absolutely you should respect people. This concept of respect your elders is a great idea, if the elder is respecting you. Okay. Now, I am not the one to talk to about political correctness, unless you're looking for a way to totally disregard it. Okay. What I find is being politically correct has created more problems than being blunt and direct. Okay. I mean, I know one individual, and it was priceless, really. I mean, when we talk about being direct, okay, this individual turned around and his girlfriend looks at him and goes, does this, do these pants make me look fat? Now, this is a question that's just begging for a problem. Okay, and most of the time, the other partner will turn around and go, oh no, you look fine. But this chap I know of, what he did was he looked at his girlfriend and he goes, nope, you were fat anyway. Now, that might seem rude. Okay, but it really did. It answered the question. Okay. Now, I do my best not to be that direct. Okay. One of the biggest things that I look at is this. If you're going to ask a question, make absolutely certain you desire the answer. Okay. Because there are times when I've been asked questions and I told the people, you're not going to like the answer. Oh, I want to hear. I want to know. No, you really don't. And they'll ask a third time and I'll finally go, here's the answer. Well, I don't like that. Well, no kidding. But, the reality is you have to be true to you first. This idea that has caused me a staggering amount of trouble. Okay. I have tried for my entire life to figure out a way to make my outlook on life more agreeable to the rest of the world. It isn't going to happen. I finally got that through my head the other day and went, nope. My outlook on life is simply the way I look at it. You are entitled to yours. Absolutely. Okay. And if I walk into a building and there are laws, and we'll go back to this recent passing of one, okay, where people were saying, you know, it's recommended you wear a mask in this building. I never argued the point ever. I went, no problem. You want me to wear a mask? I'll put a mask on. It's the same idea as no shirt, no shoes, no service. Okay. You know, they just added one. No shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. So what? Now, when it comes to medical procedures, I look at it going, not going to happen. Could I travel for a while? Not at all. Okay, fortunately, that saved me a lot of trouble. But, you know, here's the thing. When I go back, yeah, and that's not going to work. And YJ, I'm certainly the last person to tell to tell somebody, you should respect, you should respect your elders if they're not respecting you. My own parents kept asking me, how I got into certain situations, and financially speaking. And I finally looked at them because every time I talked to them, it was the same thing. I finally got fed up, and I looked at them and I said, "Look, you're going to drop the question as to how I got here, because if I knew how I got here, I wouldn't be here." Okay, so if this is just going to continue, I'm just going to cut contact and I'll vanish. I'll leave the continent if I have to. Of course, my mom made the mistake of looking at me and going, "You mean does that include us?" I went, "Yeah, absolutely." Okay, it created a problem for the longest time. And had I realized it early enough, I'd have gone back and sorted the problem out before my parents passed. And this is why I tell you, if you've got a separation from your family or from friends that you have lost contact with because of a disagreement, whether they are human, whether they are another race, it doesn't matter. Whether they're another species, who cares? Okay. I mean, I watch videos that show animals such as geese, horses, dogs being reunited with their owners from before. And I'll tell you, if they can accept people, okay, and they can reconnect, why can't humans? Other than humans are being taught fear everything, you've got to make certain that your ego is protected. Okay, and this doesn't work that well. The reality of it is, you have to put boundaries in that you personally are content with. Okay, but you have to, there is a law that goes, you must honor the laws of the land in which you are. And what that means is if you're walking into somebody else's place of business, into their own home, and they've got laws, whether you agree with them or not, like there are many in the Eastern cultures that turn around, okay, and say, "Look, in my house, take your shoes off." If that's their law, be honorable. Take your shoes off. Okay. If you walk in, like in my place, I just tell people flat out, if you're coming through the door, leave your shoes on. I don't care. Okay. Primarily, it's because there's carpet runners that are bare. And you don't want to walk across a carpet clamp in bare feet. It is just not fun. And the other thing that you'll find, if you're respecting the people around you, okay, by you doing that, what happens is they go home feeling better about themselves. And the long and the short of it, not everybody, but this is how things ricochet out. You respect the people you're dealing with. Some of them will go home and respect the people around them a little bit more readily. Net result, it just expands. This is how we change the world. This is how we change the path that society is on. We're talking about colonizing, and I like it. Let's go colonize Mars, which is a cute thought until you realize Mars is occupied. Okay, when you realize that, they actually call it invading. Not a brilliant idea. Okay, but the reality is, people are looking, let's colonize another planet. This one's going to pot, so let's move to another one. Never mind correcting the complications here. The last one I just heard about is there's a virtual world being built, some sort of virtual community on the internet where people are able to build whatever they please themselves. But the same thing is happening, apparently. There's all kinds of things happening in this virtual world, okay, that are the same problems happening on Earth in the physical world. If we're not going to correct the world we're standing in, how can you possibly expect to control to make another world a better place? Okay, I saw something on Facebook the other day that was just priceless. Now we talk about planting trees, which is a great thing. Somebody went one new and one better. They went out into an evergreen forest and they replanted trees. And it had to be a massive area. I don't know the amount of room, but I do know what he planted actually shows up from space. Okay, what he did was he went out to this forested area, this evergreen forest, and he planted a bunch of deciduous trees in it. Okay, now coniferous trees are as far as I understand it, those are your evergreens. Deciduous are the ones that drop the leaves in the fall. They change colors. Well, he did this in such a way, whoever it was that set it up, did it in such a way that every fall when the leaves change color, from space, you can see a happy face right smack in the middle of this forest. Okay. And again, this is just one of those neat things that people have done to say, hey, let's be happy. Let's work together. Okay. This is why I have this statement that I live by. Okay. The one that goes, I am worth it. Okay. Those 4 words in any language are the most powerful words that I've ever run across. Okay. Oh, I gotta show you this because it's just sitting over my shoulder. But these are the most powerful words that I've come across in any language regarding helping self-esteem, helping your self-motivation, all of that. This is the thing, it just caught my eye. Okay. And honestly, it's probably not that important to some of you. Now, as you know, I play around with things. I usually have this one. Okay. Now, this is just a letter opener because I fidget. Okay. But this is something, and it went missing I actually lost it for 10 years. Took it over to my dad's place, and he lost it. I got it back after he passed away. Okay. That is something else I play around with. Now, I keep it obviously sheathed, obviously out of the way. I'm not violent by any functional stretch. But if you are reading the Yldrbac Chronicles, you'll find Blade packs one of these. That's a Bowie knife. You'll know now this is not they patterned it as a Bowie knife, but an actual Bowie. This blade here is sharp. Now this you could cut cold butter with, and that's pretty much it. But that's what he's packing around. Okay. It's just one of those little things. And this is what I mean by I do have artifacts and what have you. Okay. And again, this boils down to an issue of what I call success and what I call tying things together. Then we got this other neat little toy. Okay. Now this one happens to be a complete mock-up. There is no part of this that was ever part of the gun. But this one did stop the cops cold. That is the gun that Blade carries over his shoulder. Double barrel, decent size, complete mock-up. This is just wood and molded metal. It never had any working mechanism in it. Just built, and of course we've got some form of putty that I had that it was built with. Okay. But when I say most of what I do is interconnected, even the artifacts that I have around the house that I'm having built, okay, are here. And again, I do the same thing when I'm talking to the off-worlders, by the way. Okay, they'll ask why they should pay attention. I'm like, well, your method isn't working all that well. Hey, Ange, welcome on board. Glad you got here. Thanks, YJ. I look at it this way. When I can bring an item in that is physically there, it makes it easier for me to write. This is one of the things I use my figures for. Okay, is laying out battles and what have you. Yeah, this little toy I actually was dressed as a road warrior one Halloween. It'd be 40 years ago now. Okay, 45 years ago. And I was dressed as a road warrior, aka Mad Max circa. Okay, this was sitting on my dashboard. You can picture how happy the cop was when he pulled me over in a standard roadblock. Little edgy, and of course, the reality is it wasn't just the gun I was packing up, that I was packing around. Don't have the other item. Okay, the other problem was I had 2 American pineapples sitting on my dashboard on my seat beside me. Okay. And when I was dressed in that outfit, I had the Iroquois, the rooster cut, the whole 9 yards. So I mean, it definitely made an impression as far as the cop was concerned. Not necessarily that good of an impression, although he was a whole lot more relaxed when he realized everything was done. That's the other thing, and I don't think of course you can't see it here. Down back, Jeremiah himself has a portable bar. Okay. Personally, so do I. It's a good thing I don't go through a 26 or a night anymore. I used to. That was what actually prompted getting the bar in the first place. But, when I'm dealing with people, whether I'm dealing with humans or other people, I've been asked quite regularly, do you prefer off-worlders to humans? And I'm like, no, I really don't, because they're all the same. Okay, they really, people are all the same. It's like I've told both my kids, up until you're 18, I will not support you in having a tattoo or a piercing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love tattoo artwork. I would never put it on myself. I'd never have it done myself. But I love the artwork that goes into it. The problem is, and here's why I said I won't support it until you're 18, is because until you know exactly what you're doing and what the ramifications are and the fact that there is no going back, you cannot undo it. Okay. I mean, yes, they can remove tattoos now, but you've already done the damage. Okay. But until you are old enough to really understand the ramifications of it, then no, I'm just not going there. And they're fine with it. Okay. I honestly don't know if my eldest has a tattoo yet, or if he's even considering one. Of course, he's also moved out of the house 3 years ago. So that's his world. Now, the neat thing, yeah, absolutely. The one thing, and if you go back into my old videos, you'll find a small section of them called language. Trying is one of the ones I know I did for that. Okay. But the term trying, you've heard the concept, if at first you don't succeed, try again. That creates a complication that is self-debilitating, and here's why. The moment you say try, you're admitting the possibility and thereby creating the reality of failure. Okay, so I go with the other side of it. When at first you do succeed, go do something else. Okay. Oops. Yeah, isn't that the unfortunate reality of it? I'm lucky. I grew up in a home where we were taught if you put money down, it didn't get moved until you came and got it. And understand, my parents not only had six of us, two foster parents, and were block parents. It didn't matter who you were. If you put money down somewhere, it was left there. My kids are the same way. They won't move it. Okay. But this is the same in all societies across the board. Okay. Societies have to understand that if you desire your society to grow, you do have to have laws. And it will require, so to speak, it does require politicians to get in there and find a balance point. But if the laws are not made that apply to everybody, okay, regardless of heritage, regardless of income, regardless of who you vote for, if the laws do not apply to everybody, you will have a rebellion. Okay, you will get a subculture. And if that subculture has rules that do not apply to everybody there, it will fracture again. Now, here's a cute thought, and it's going on right now. Okay, we are living in a world where the human genome has two sexes. Whether people identify it as it or not is irrelevant. Okay, because you either have a male and a female in order to produce a kid, or you don't produce a kid. It's that simple. Now, I only know of one race that is actually a trinary race, meaning they literally require three sexes. Okay, and oddly enough, the neutral one, they have one and two ways of dealing with it. The male gets together with the neutral. Much like many of the reptilians at this point. Okay, many of the reptiles on this planet, reptiles and amphibs, and for that matter, fish. Okay, the female lays the eggs, and deposits them somewhere, and the male comes along and fertilizes them. With a trinary gender system, the female will deposit the eggs into the neutral, and then the male will repeat the process into the neutral. Net result, the neutral carries the child until it's born. Okay. And again, this is their society, but they are a trinary system. Okay. Humans are not a trinary genome. Okay, and it doesn't matter what you relate to. Okay, it's kind of like it doesn't matter who you call God, who you call your higher power. It doesn't make any difference. William Shakespeare said it best when he turned around and said, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." Okay, very important people realize this. Okay, it doesn't matter what you call it. If I call this coffee, it's coffee. If you call it Java, it's another name for the same thing. It's still a hot drink. But here's the problem with communication. If I'm dealing with a human and I go and I take my coffee cup and say, "Coffee," your problem. If you're an off-worlder, if you're human, you'll look at that. You may not know what coffee is. If you're not speaking my language, you may not know what coffee is. But you will get the idea that I've got a drink here for you. I'm offering you one. This much is clear. If you're not if you're not of the same planetary involvement, okay. And Gene Roddenberry of the original Star Trek actually said it best. They have no working foundation. So if I pick up a coffee and go coffee, their problem. Did I just offer you something? Did I threaten you? Am I talking about this is a cup? This is the color of it? Or am I talking about something inside it? Okay. Another obvious example. With humans, when somebody goes, and puts their hands up, this is a great idea. Okay. If you put your hands up, virtually everybody around the world knows this is a sign of I'm unarmed, I'm giving up, I'm not a threat. There is one race, and I think it's the Fuentiran, but I'm not 100% certain. Okay, the vegans I know do this. If a vegan actually holds their hands up like this, okay, you're in trouble because they're not saying, I'm surrendering. What they're actually telling you is you take one more step, and I'm going to close my fist, and I'm going to pop a blade out the bottom end here, and now I'm going to strike. That's what they're saying. They're saying, back off, you're close enough. That's all they're telling you, but you may not know that if you're not human. You know, if you're human and you point a gun at them, you may think they're surrendering, and what they're doing is literally prepping to take you out. And I don't mean they're prepping for a date. Okay, but societies all have their own ways. Now, one of the reasons there's so many off-worlders around right now is we are at a turning point. Okay, no, there is not. Somebody asked me the other day, maybe last night, I don't know. Okay, if there was going to be some sort of rapture where something's going to come down, raise up a bunch of people and take us out and take them out of the way while the rapture takes place. The answer is no, not going to happen that way. And you can say it in any number of books you want to look at. Go ahead. Okay. You know, they tell me that thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. Well, I want you to consider this. Did you watch, for instance, 2012, Armageddon, ID4, did you watch any of these? Volcano, years ago, there was Inferno. Any of these movies, any of these natural disaster or technological disaster movies, did you watch any of them? And have, after you watched them, find out the world was actually gone. Okay, one of your most recent would be The Walking Dead. Okay, these are all things people have thought about. Okay, I mean, I personally, during my gaming experiences, I personally have torn, I cannot tell you how many planets I've torn in half. Earth being one of them. Okay. Now, if thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, then we would have a much smaller problem right now. Okay, it's just something to consider. And I have to, I've had to tell people of multiple different races, multiple different species, the same thing. Now, I watched something the other day on YouTube. This dog, these guys were out sailing, and I didn't see how it happened, but this little dog ended up off the boat in the middle of the ocean. And a dolphin come along, scooped up the dog and carried it back to the boat, and then landed on the boat. Put it back on the boat. Now, if dolphins can rise up and help a dog that's drowning, why will humans not turn around and help each other? Okay, this is the message that has to get out to people. The reality of it from my standpoint is this. Until we start treating each other as equals, scrap the whole idea that because you've got more money or because you worship somebody by a certain name, okay, that makes you better. Okay, it doesn't. And this is a thing that people have to start realizing. It's also why I tend to be very blunt. It's like, how do you feel about this? Well, here's what it is. I mean, a couple of years back, I think now, somebody asked me a question, and of course, they caught me on a bad day, and I really got to give Dave Scott a thumbs up on this one. Because the question that was asked was, why should you believe me? Okay, they asked literally, why should I believe what you're saying? My immediate response was pretty black and white. Okay, I looked in the camera and I said, just out of curiosity, what makes you think I care if you believe what I'm telling you? And don't get me wrong. For me, it's a very simple issue of I refuse to lie to people to make them feel better. Okay. But I watch, like, I love the videos that get shown on YouTube that show, like, I watched one, a crow had gotten stuck in the water and couldn't get out. And I watched a grizzly bear come over and fish the crow out, gently dropped it on the ground and walked away. Well, the crow lay there for a little bit. Needless to say, was in absolute shock. Okay. But again, this is an animal, and mankind keeps touting itself as being so much more advanced. These are basic rules. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Now, do not get me wrong, I'm not perfect. When I was a kid, I used to use a magnifying lens on ants' nests. Okay. Not a nice thing. I don't do that anymore, by the way. You know, see, the only, like, football, near-death videos are intriguing. From my standpoint, the reason I don't watch them, been there, done that. Okay. For me, it's a redundancy thing. But I do like the way some of them are laid out. Okay. I do wonder about CGI and what have you. Because and I'm not going to say what is right, what isn't. Okay, because frankly, I'm not a video analyst. Okay. I mean, near-death experience, I went the other side of it. I went way beyond near-death. Like at 5 years old, I walked out of the morgue. Okay. You got to be dead a long time before you get moved to the morgue. Never mind to walk out of it. But I think looking back on it, the funniest part of it for me was when I looked back on it years later, like only about 5 years ago now, really. Nope. 2016, 6 years ago now. My dad laid it out for me. Okay. That number one, it was confirmed I did walk out of the morgue. The thing that was funnier than heck was that happened approximately 4:14 in the afternoon on August 1st of 68. And it was sometime in late 66, early 67 that the original Walking, Dawn of the Dead came out. Now you can picture the problem the poor mortician had when I sat up and left. Okay. I mean, it does make it a little bit more of a poignant statement for him. Absolutely. I have no idea what happened to him afterwards. I can well imagine that was the end of his career. For me, it's just, I don't watch what I do enjoy the videos that have somebody that's been really wrong. Now, understand something. This is a movie. Okay. I enjoy watching movies that somebody has been really badly wronged, and the person goes back out and makes them pay for it. But that's a movie. In reality, revenge has never worked out well. It does not make the problem go away. Okay, it does not make the old saying, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do, work out quite well. But the reality of it is, revenge is not something that is spiritually viable. As a movie goes, revenge movies, like one of the ones that I thoroughly enjoyed the outcome of was a movie called Peppermint. Okay. I watched those. I watched the End of the World movies, not because I'm worried about the world ending. Okay. I mean, I'm a firm believer the world will one day end. If my friend's assessment is correct, in about 5 billion years. Okay. But I'm not worried about the world coming to an end anytime soon. I mean, it seems every other year somebody goes, oh, the world's ending. Yeah, it will eventually. Okay, I'm just not going to waste my time worrying about it. The neat part about life is here. It's real easy, and this is why I don't fear death. Everybody can die. Okay, I'm not impressed with some of the options, but everybody is going to die. I've tried a number of the different methods, or more to the point of experience them. I don't do it deliberately. I've actually never been suicidal. Have I been depressed? Yeah. Something that came to my understanding, though, is I function better in a society where people just accept the fact that you think differently than going, you have to think this way. I don't do that. It's physically not possible for me to do that. And no, right now, I'm certainly not going into that. Okay. But I can actually explain why I physically cannot think like other people. So the reality is, if you desire success, first rule of thumb, you're the one that's going to have to do it. Get all the guidance, all the support you can from wherever you can get it. But you're going to have to be the one doing it. You're going to have to be the one to get up and go, okay, I want my dishes put away. I'm going to have to get up and put them away. Or I'm going to have to pay somebody to come in and put them away for me. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Okay. And, the reality of it is very simple. If you desire your life to change, you don't have to know where it's going to. All you have to identify is one, I am worth it. That's first and foremost. And number two, no matter what you desire to change, if something doesn't feel right, get up and move it. Alter that thing. Because when you eliminate all the things you're not content with, then all you're left with is the life you're content with. Where it comes to dealing with off-worlders, it's the same thing. Treat them the way you desire to be treated. And no, sad to say, as far as I'm aware, there's no cut and dried way of going, hey, come pick me up. It's not like hitchhiking. Well, in today's world, it probably is. When I was growing up, we could walk down the street, you could stick your thumb out, and somebody would be kind enough to pull over and give you a lift. In today's world, you stick your thumb out, they're likely to drive by you and stick their finger up. It's not the same world, but it has about the same effect as waving your hand in the air and going, come and pick me up, alien. Okay. When I was a kid, I wanted to get off the world. What I forgot to mention was don't bring me back. Okay. So have I managed to get off world? Absolutely. Have I managed to attain the other thing I desired, which was peace of mind? Absolutely. But I had to find out the hard way that peace of mind is not garnered by figuring out how to fit in with everybody else. It was garnered by figuring out that I myself had to be content with me. When I reached that point, that's when the peace of mind came. Am I perfect at it? Not a snowball's prayer. Okay. The third one is going to take a little while longer to prove. Because when I was a kid, I also set out a goal. I desired to see the 22nd century in a functionally operational body. Okay. Well, to do that would mean I will have to be 137 years old. That might be a little bit of a trick. Okay, but it is what I'm aiming for. And if you're still around in another 80 years and we can sit down to coffee, that's great. I'm not really expecting it, but I'm certainly not going to go out and start face jumping. I think it's called face jumping. Parachute off a cliff. I'm not going to do it. I won't jump in. I won't get into a parachute and jump out of a plane. Can't see the point in jumping off a cliff and hoping it's going to keep me alive. Okay, but with this in mind, we're hitting the 2-hour mark here now. Okay, I've got a bunch of things to do. Thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, I think I will move this. This worked out really well. So I think I will end up turning around and coming in on Saturday afternoons. And again, as far as going on to a different podcast or as a guest, I simply have to work around my schedule. Okay, because sad to say, that's what keeps the roof over my head. Now, with that in mind, until we meet again, thank you so much and take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.